Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Talking Boxing to the Max Round 2 with Andrew the Boxing Brain. And it's an absolute pleasure and a delight to be joined by Eliot from ESBR Boxing. Eliot, thank you so much for coming on. How are we, mate?
All good, thanks, Max. Thank you for having me on. It's nice to be away from ESBR, if I'm honest. That can be unleashed a little bit. So yeah, thank you very much for having me.
No problem at all, mate. So obviously it's been a long journey for yourself. You started off in 2017, was it, your own channel?
I believe that is definitely definitely a long time. Yeah, there was ESBR was created by a guy called Sean, and Sean decided to leave and do something different. So yeah, and I took over 2017, 2018, something like that. And it's been great. Look, as you guys know, boxing's a relentless sport. It's non-stop. It's not like football when there's kind of an off season. It's all
Yeah,
year round. But look, enjoying it. Still enjoying it. You have your ups and your downs, don't you? But at the moment, it feels like there's good fights coming up. So this is one of the times where it's good to be on something like this and speaking to the both of you.
Perfect, mate. No,
lovely.
thank you so much. And that was an amazing time for boxing, wasn't it? Sort of 2017, 2018, probably a really good time to get into it with AJ and everyone.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, that's true. That's very true. I think when you kind of get into this game, it takes a while to work up to be a big enough of an outlet to get accredited to the big
Yeah,
fights, and that took
yeah.
quite a long time. So you're still in the industry at that time, which is fantastic, and you're still there to talk about it, and that's great. But in terms of actually being a part of those events, it can take a little while to kind of to lead up to that, unless you kind of got the right sort of connections.
All about who you know, innit? Always about who you know in life, Elliot. So yes, and nearly
Absolutely.
20 years you've been in the game, because I know we obviously did some work together. We did when I was with the Boxing Bros, and I still do a bit with them. And we come onto your channel, you come onto ours. But I think the first time I met you in person, wasn't it at the Baturbia Bivol presser?
Um, it
I think
definitely could be. Yeah, yeah. No, all of these kind of press conference and weigh-ins events, they kind of roll into one. But I seem
yeah,
to remember that it was a very dark room, and
very
I
dark
do remember
room.
that.
I think there was that was Virgil Ortiz was there when he fight. It was, and every fight was a world title fight, wasn't it? It was meant to be obviously wasn't Parker Dubois meant to be on that
Yeah,
card as well?
Zan Cabiel, maybe?
yeah, that's the
Jan
one.
Cabiel, yeah, yeah. Oh god, I couldn't believe how big he was in person.
Nah.
Bloody hell, Jan. But yeah, what would you say? Because obviously you've been around the interview game for a little while. If you could share, what would you say your kind of best worst interviews were that's kind of spring to mind?
I think best interviews are people who have energy, people who have kind of energy to kind of go into detail with an answer. And there's been some times when I don't know if you guys have had this experience when you can kind of get an arm ache because you're holding your interview stick out to someone and they're doing so much talking, you're having to hold your arm up for a good 4 or 5 or 6 minutes. Those are the sort of interviews that are great because when you're kind of a limited interviewer like myself, you don't really have to do a lot of work. So that's something that's really great. And I admire someone who does 5, 6, 7 interviews back to back, all 7, 8, 9 minutes long. And no matter how big the outlet is, they have the same energy. They go into the same amount of detail. And you can't say that about everyone. There's a lot of people where as soon as they see that you're not from IFL TV or Boxing Social or Boxing News, it's a
Yeah,
completely different interview. In terms
yeah,
of names, I interviewed Dean White last week, who I think's fantastic.
Yeah.
good to
I'm a big
interview.
fan
Yeah,
of Dean White. Yeah,
yeah.
I'll never understand why he pretended to be Dean White's brother, but that's maybe that's maybe a
I was
different
mental, wasn't
story.
it?
But
Lamar Scott.
yeah, but he's fantastic. Dev Sani is another one who I quite like, is someone who build up a bit of a rapport with. And yeah, look, the obvious look. I think if you can catch Eddie Hearn on a good day, then he's fantastic as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny you mention that because my worst interview was Dev Sali. I had an absolute shocker, but yeah, you're right. You're right about the energy and someone I think probably my best two are Michael Hunter and Radio Raheem. Radio Raheem's the easiest person to interview ever. you
Yeah.
just you can't shut him up. You just ask a
Yeah,
question and that's it. He just goes.
yeah,
Oh, brilliant,
that was
eh?
great.
And do you still like get starstruck, say if you see like Tyson Fury or anyone, or does that kind of dwindle as you get more experience?
So in terms of being starstruck, if you come right up face to face with someone
Mm,
of a certain level and you're interviewing them, I do still struggle with that. There's
yeah,
something about that. If I see, Tyson Fury and Joshua at a press conference, a little bit, but not so much nowadays. And I think it's just because I've been doing this a little while. But I
Yeah.
had an experience. It was the Alexander Usyk Daniel Dubois fight week last year. I think I saw you there, Andrew, actually, at
Yeah,
the press
yeah,
conference at Wembley Stadium. And
yeah.
I was lucky enough to get some time with Joseph Parker. And
Mm,
that was great. And that was, I probably wasn't supposed to get time with him. He was supposed to do kind of a scrum, and I got in there just before that. I was a bit sneaky. And I'm not going to kind of impersonate what happened, but basically my body started shaking because I was very nervous. And it was like
yeah.
my legs started shaking, then my arms. And I don't know if you noticed or not, but that still happens occasionally. If I'm doing there's a scrum with Frank Warren or Eddie Hearn, the shakes kind of start the shakes start to happen because there's something about when you've seen someone on TV or on your laptop or on your phone and then being a
Yeah.
foot away from them and speaking to them. There's something about that's I've not gotten used to when it's someone of a certain level.
I think
yeah,
that's natural,
I can
mate. A bit of anxiety,
imagine.
nervousness. I think I think I had that a little bit with Jai Opetaia, but only because he was looking at me like he was going to stick a left hand on me. I don't know why. Don't know why I thought that he was looking at. I was thinking. I was waiting for a quick left hand to come my way. I don't know why.
Mm,
I think because he didn't really want to do an interview. He'd come in with his white cap and he was there to support Parker. And he
mm.
said, "No, I've got 5 minutes." And he was a little bit frosty at first, and he warmed up to the interview. But I think that was the only, that's really not someone you want to get in a confrontation with. One of the definitely not with someone like that. But I think because there's a lot of. I mean, you've been doing it for nearly 10 years now, and I've been doing it sort of 2 or 3 years. But sometimes it can be just so overwhelming, and you just got all these different types. George Groves is at the bar drinking, and you're like, "What is Lennox Lewis
Yeah,
sorted in?" And cameras are everywhere. And it is a bit at first. It's very kind of like, oh,
Yeah,
after you've been at an event, you need a dark room for about 3 days,
yeah.
don't you?
It is. It is daunting. And one thing I've always said to people is, if you do an interview with someone, and the example I've always given, if you do an interview with someone, and say you're interviewing Conor Ben, and you kept on calling him Nigel Ben, if that
Oh,
happened, the just the if that happened, the interview doesn't have to go out. Just it maybe might you could maybe heavily edit it, but that's the thing I've always said to people getting into it. If it goes horribly wrong and you call someone by the wrong name or say they're a heavyweight when they're a middleweight or something like that, it just doesn't have to go out. However, when you're in
mm,
kind of a scrum environment and you say something like that, then it will go out because other people will be filming it as well. So that's the risk of being in a scrum.
yeah.
it must be quite intimidating when you've got so many people behind you, is it? When you've got IFL and
Mm.
Coogan, is everyone sort of in a queue and you've got like, right, 10 minutes and then that's it? And people get pissed off if you're 11 minutes in. Is that how it works? Or,
If it's a bit of like the Wild West, to be honest with you, Max. Sometimes there's a queue
Yeah.
system, sometimes there's not really. It's yeah,
uh,
it's just a Wild West. But there are times when you're interviewing someone of a decent stature, and you do have a queue of people behind you, and they want you to hurry up because they want to do their interview because then they can move on to the next person. Because if you're in a queue, that means you're not filming, and if you're not filming, then you're not making content that can kind of potentially be monetized. So yeah, yeah, it's I enjoy it, but it's a bit it's sometimes it can be a bit daunting and a bit crazy for sure.
I can mirror those sentiments, actually. I've definitely experienced that. And to use some boxing analogies, I think you have to try and quickly learn to plant your feet and hold the centre of the ring a bit. Because honestly, some of these heavyweights of the media world, they are trying to, they are trying to kind of manoeuvre you
take it
around
on
the
you.
ring. I mean, me and Eliot are obviously quite big lads. I didn't realise I taught it. I mean, you 6'2", Eliot, and you've got to be
Yeah,
about
around
6'4".
6'2", not as
I
big as
was
you,
quite
Andrew, but yeah,
surprised. Yeah, but I think you've got, so they're less likely. I
yeah,
think they're less likely to maybe shove me and Elliot about. But you do get a bit of that where they throw the weight around. Then you have got. I mean, again, Chris. Chris is the former, when I've done stuff with Chris, the former kind of security guard. Big strong
Yeah.
bloke. And I think you've either got to have a personality to deal with that, or the physicality, or a bit of both if you can, because it is a bit of a dog eat dog way. It's a bit shark infested waters, a little bit, Eliot, isn't it?
It absolutely is. And there have been times when I think you get to know people, maybe not on like a friend's level, but there's people you see enough to say hello to them. They know who you are and blah, blah, blah. And you can be saying hello to someone, having a conversation with them. And then 5 minutes later, you can be almost having a fight of your own with them to try and get someone. It is like that. I don't like that aspect of it because it doesn't have to be like that. But sometimes I think sometimes it's not necessarily the media that's the problem. It's that these events they can be a bit unorganized with what fighters are doing, what interviews, and who do you queue here for this, and is this fighter doing that, or are they going home? So everyone just end up kind of running around and seeing what they can get. And also another point I'd say is I don't want to kind of defend rudeness or people not having manners, but if you work for one of the bigger outlets, you've got a boss, a manager messaging you saying you must get this person, you must get Zhile Zhang or Eddie Hearn, and the interview must be this long, or you must get this amount of interviews. I'm not in that position, and sometimes I'm blessed to not be in that position, but that's the one thing I would say is sometimes these guys are under a lot of pressure to get a lot of content, and unfortunately that means manners kind of going out the window sometimes.
Yeah. Dog eat dog.
And do you get many like promoters or fighters that say you can't ask this, you can't ask that? Because Eddie Hearn famously says, doesn't he? He's the only promoter that says you can ask me anything. Is that true, or?
I've not had any experiences when I've been told you can't ask. You can't ask this, you can't ask that. I think there's certain things not to ask.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know some people have had that experience, but I personally haven't.
That's good, because obviously you get a lot of comments, don't you, from people saying, oh, why didn't you ask this? Why didn't you ask that? But I always think, I mean, one, it's nerve-wracking doing what you're doing. It takes balls to do it. And I admire anyone who does it. But also, I've always thought, well, maybe he's been told before, you can't ask this, you can't ask that. Because you see it all the time, didn't you? Like, oh, Coogan, why didn't you ask this? But, maybe Frank Warren said to him before, do not ask me about that, or whatever it may be,
Yeah, and it's one of those where even if nobody says don't ask, even if people say don't ask that. For example, look, I'll say it. If you started asking Eddie Hearn or Frank Warren, when did you last speak to Daniel Kinahan? Have you spoken to him recently? What's your relationship with Daniel like now? You can ask that, and they might answer it, but will you then be interviewing Eddie Hearn again? Probably not. So, it's one of those things where you can ask these things, but then it could disrupt your access moving forward.
Yeah,
I think that's a really good point.
Yeah,
that's a really good point Eliot's made there, though, for any listeners that maybe want to understand this world. And it's something I've quickly had to work out. And obviously I've gone more sort of freelance now. And the great thing about being independent is you can do what you want. But the problem is, if you do go to too inflammatory and you want to make a bit of a name for yourself, you're up and coming, want to ask a few more challenging questions, sticking it on Frank Warren a little bit, go for it, but you might not get the access ever again. So, and it's kind of like, it's weird when mainstream media want to kind of, they really want to kind of toe the line and butt them up a bit. And I understand we get frustrated with that, but you've got to find a little bit of a balance, haven't you? A little bit of kind of maybe somewhere in the middle, like make it a bit tongue in cheek, but don't lay it on too thick,
I think so. And look, we are media. We should kind of be able to ask what we want. So I don't necessarily like that, but that is how it is. And I know people who have asked certain questions and have then got an email saying your attendance at the event on Saturday is no longer required, basically in one way or another. So it does happen.
Yeah.
If you remember Frank Warren and Adam Cattrall about the warm lager thing, he stuck it on him, didn't he? And I think after that, Adam Cattrall really calmed down on Frank Warren, I noticed, understandably, when you've got the Don boss coming after you.
Yeah, for sure.
you got people like Simon Jordan on Talksport that loves to do that, and that's his shtick, and that's fine, you know. But then you might not get the fighters wanting to come, like Tyson Fury. I don't think he's been on Talksport for about 2 years, has he? Because
No.
they've sort of fell out with a. So this is the thing; it's trying to find that balance. But I
Yeah.
think Tyson Fury falls out with himself though, looking in the mirror.
Yeah.
So
And do you get many fights live, do you, Elliot, as well? Like, what's the best ones you've been at? Like, biggest events and stuff? Few
Yeah,
stadium
man.
shows?
Yeah, I mean, we were blessed last year, weren't we? Obviously, Usyk Dubois at Wembley Stadium, Conor Benn versus Chris Eubank Jr. at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium twice. So last year was a good year. I was at Usyk Dubois, I was at the Eubank Ben rematch.
Yeah.
So the stadium fights are special. Look, I'm not a massive fan of them just because your view of the fight's not very good if you're in if you're in kind of the media section. Most media there aren't on ringside, but as a spectacle and to say you were there is quite special. So that's kind of that's definitely up that's definitely up there for me. Anytime kind of going to the O2, that as an arena is it's fantastic. It's in the centre of London. It's just a great all-round arena, whether it's for kind of a boxing or music or other things as well. So yeah, I think one that probably stands out to me personally was Tyson Fury, Dillian White. That was my first stadium show, and obviously it was a packed out Wembley. So was it 94,000, something like that?
Yeah.
We're at Wembley Stadium. So that was special. Again, not an amazing fight, and you can't really see what's going on with where you are in that place when you're media, but that was special. And if you had said to me, kind of when I started doing this, I would be going to Wembley Stadium as media, I probably wouldn't have believed you. So that was special looking back at it.
Pinch yourself. Pinch yourself. Last question from me, Elliot, before we talk about some current events going on. Who would you say, just off the top of your head, you know, like favourite current fighters you love to watch, and maybe some of your favourites from that have retired now from yesteryear? Just first that come to
Oh
mind.
man, good question. Good question. Favorite fighter ever? Big Manny Pacquiao fan.
Oof.
The way he would throw
Nice.
shots, how unorthodox he was, moving up in those weight divisions. I don't want to see him fight anymore, but that's probably my favorite fighter of all time. Favorite British fighter of all time, probably Carl Froch, just because I look at him and thought,
Great shout.
yeah, you're not the most talented fighter, you're not the most kind of technical, but you're extremely tough, extremely fit, and that's how he got through some of his biggest wins. He's got a massive heart as well. At the moment, in terms of worldwide stars, Bam Rodriguez is someone who I would love to see in massive fights in the next couple of years.
Yeah.
That's someone who, look, he's a fantastic talent, but we've not seen him against another elite fighter yet. So the idea of seeing Rodriguez against Nakatani Inoue in the next couple of years, those are the fights that I really like. So yeah, that's in a nutshell, kind of past and present. That's probably it at the moment.
Good shouts.
Brilliant. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, just speaking of the American boxing market, Boots Ennis has just been in the news this week, hasn't he? And what is going on there with Virgil Ortiz? It's mental.
Yeah, it's draining because we just want to see these fights happen. And it's one of those with Virgil Ortiz where will it probably happen eventually? Yes, but the time to make the fights now. Like now's the time to make it. They're both undefeated. They both looked good recently. So it should be happening now. Whereas in 2 years they could be past their prime. One of them could have lost. So we'll see. I mean, it doesn't look like it's going to happen now, does it? So it's quite doom and gloom, but we shall see.
Well, he's stuck with Golden Boy apparently, but I mean, I just don't understand how they can't make that fight anyway. Like, well, why did he have to leave Golden Boy for that fight to happen? And that's still the problem with boxing. You know, when you hear Eddie Hearn and everyone say that boxing's perfect and there's no problem, that is a prime example for me. So, what do you think, Andrew? Do you think we'll see it or?
Oh, do you know, for me with Boots, like he's definitely a generational talent, isn't he? And obviously cleaned up at 147, didn't he? And you know, he was big for 147. We all knew he was going to step up. I mean, even at 147, outside of the two I always have to double check his name, Chikatsi, and obviously he struggled a little bit in both those. And the Stanionis fight, like I just want to see him in a competitive fight, like a really competitive fight now. And there's some big fights for him at 154. I mean, you've obviously got Josh Kelly now, IBF champ, haven't you? You know, you got Fundora, Zayas, the unified champion. Like this, I just whether it's Ortiz Jr., whether it's, I mean, I was looking at going over the rankings. Look, Keith Thurman, who's about 76 and number 3 with the WBC, still going strong.
Fundora, isn't he? Fundora Thurman next, I think.
Yeah,
that's confirmed.
but
Yeah.
I think for me, boys, don't we want to see a talent like Boots? Like as fans, forget that we're in the media and all that. We understand how the politics are and arbitrations and all this bollocks. I just want to see him in just a really good fight because I just want to see where he's at. You know.
Yeah, 100%. And especially with the hype of Eddie Hearn. I mean, Eddie Hearn, you know, since he's had Boots, I mean, he thought Usima Lima wasn't it last time out, which was just awful, pointless. Stanionis, fair enough, good fight. But before that, it was the Karen rematch. And it's like, Eddie, you've got to get a bit hype for Boots now. You really do. Nothing's going on with them.
But the Karen rematch was he wanted to get that knockout, didn't he? He wanted to avenge the fact that he'd gone.
Yeah,
then he sort of laboured to a 12
again.
But styles make fights. I get that. I know it's a cliche, but it's just one of those sometimes where you've just got to fight. It's just a little bit tricky for you. But I don't know. Even someone like a Tim Tszyu, Eliot, right? I know Tim Tszyu obviously got badly knocked out by Murtazaliev, but at least Tim Tszyu's going to get in there, and you know he's going to stick it on Boots, come forward and have a go, unless he's got severe PTSD now from that defeat. But someone like that, where I want to see Boots under a bit of adversity, where he's got to maybe show a little bit of something else, you know?
Yeah, I think one thing about Ennis as well, his record is 35-0, and like, I'm not taking away he's a fantastic fighter, but like talk of a padded record. I mean, how many
31 KOs, didn't it?
Yeah,
against
but
who?
I'm just like, I just don't appreciate you think he turned pro 10 years ago, so he would have been 18, so it's turned pro very young, but to be 35-0 and there's just less than 5 of those opponents that are kind of that credible, it's not great. And he just, I don't know, I think it's a big 12 months. It's a big 12 months in his career, and if Ortiz fight doesn't happen, can fight Josh Kelly, fight Jan Zayas, why not? I mean, so I'm losing a bit of faith, I suppose. I mean, I think Israel Madrimov is another name. Can that fight happen? I wouldn't mind seeing that fight. I mean, why not?
Sure.
So we'll see. Ennis, fantastic talent. Echo what kind of Max said, that fight against Lima, I don't think really did him any favors because it wasn't really much of a fight. We'll see. I'm trying not to be too negative, but we'll see. Hopefully we see him in a big fight this year.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he signed with Zuffa down the line, Boots. I think he's definitely got potential, hasn't he, to go there. Another one of Matchroom signings going to Dana White.
Oh, poor old Eddie. Don't template there. Definitely. But yeah, we just want to see him in a competitive fight. But should we talk a little? Should we talk a little bit about the Fury undercard? It's divided opinion. I actually quite like it as an undercard. I'm quite looking forward to it. Eliot, what do you think? A bit of criticism around it. I'm a bit confused. I think there's some good fights on there, isn't there, mate?
I think you know what's nice is when a card gets announced and fights take you by surprise, i.e. you don't, because a lot of the time nowadays fights get leaked, things happen, things get leaked through the press, whereas this one that's not happened here. I think Justice Huni Fraser Clark, it's kind of come out of nowhere. I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that Justice Huni wins that fight personally. Troy Williamson looks like he's in a proper fight. I'm not going to try and say the guy's surname, but he's in a proper fight. Conor Benn versus Regis Prograis, weird.
Catch weight as well.
Yeah, I think it will be interesting to see what happens there because Conor Benn needs to look good and needs to stop Regis Prograis fairly early, in my opinion, if you consider that the hype that's around him now. So it's watchable. I'm not going to sit here and say it's the best undercard ever, but it's watchable. It's a lot better than a lot of the undercards that you'll see when there's a big fight taking place in the main event.
Definitely. And it's a Turkey show, isn't it? Because, I mean, you've got a couple of Eddie Hearn fighters. Is Justice Hooney still with Matchroom? I'm sure he is. You lose track, didn't you, with who's with who? But
He's one of 4 heavyweights Matchroom have still got.
is AJ not signed with Zuffer? No, it's happening. But yeah, no,
Oh.
I totally agree. I think Fraser Clark could, potentially could pull off an upset. He's training with Joe Gallagher now, isn't he?
Yeah.
I'd love it if he won because he's a great guy, Big Fraser, isn't he? Lovely fella.
That's an interesting fight, Max, that one, isn't it? Because I think, look, both, obviously, Clark suffered that very damaging defeat to Wardley. But I think it's maybe fair to say he's flattered to deceive at pro. Obviously, good Olympian, bronze medalist, very good amateur. Flattered to deceive at pro, really. I mean, Eliot made the point about Boots turning pro young. I mean, Fraser Clark waited till he was about 32 before he turned pro. So he's what is this? It's like his 10th or 11th fight. I can't remember. It's bizarre. But I think Hooney's an interesting one because I think his punch resistance leaves a bit. I mean, you can't take nothing away. The Wardley can do that to anyone. We know that, but got wobbled by Lorena, who's not. I know he gave Dubois trouble as well, and he's an effective fighter. But I think the jury's out on Hooney a little bit. I think he's a very, very good boxer. I think that's probably a 60-40. I tend to agree with Eliot a bit. I think Hooney's maybe the slight favourite, but Peter Clark won that. Absolutely not surprised. And the TKV Reactor fight, I really like that.
Brilliant fight. Total 50-50. That I can't pick a winner.
I fancied TKV, actually. Obviously, I spoke to him while I was with Bros, and he gave me some insights. But who do you fancy in that one? Reactor's done nothing at heavyweight. Obviously, do you know
Tommy
as well?
Walsh.
After the CBS loss at Cruiser, I think he's fought twice in 2 years. Very, very inactive. TKV's fought Adelaide and Fraser Clark, which are decent opponents. So in terms of activity, because it's easy on the eye for a casual, TKV will be dismissed because of the way he looks to a casual. But he's quite effective. He can box a bit. He showed that against Adelaide, got behind his jab, was very unfortunate, mixed it up against Clark and got in a war with him. If Reactor doesn't let his hands go, because he can be a bit guilty of that, Reactor. We know he's got power. If he's a bit tentative and TKV's really active, Eliot, does TKV get the job done on Reactor? I'm making that case because I think he might just surprise a few people.
Yeah, I think it's a struggle to pick a winner here. TKV. The way he handled Fraser Clark was very impressive. I thought he was very composed in that fight.
Good win.
And Reactor, I'm a little bit surprised that we're here because I thought Reactor, who's 36 now, I thought he would want to push on. And this is someone who's fought for a world title, lost, but fought for a world title. It's his only loss on his resume. And I just thought, no, he would want to try and maybe get himself some sort of ranking. But this opportunity's here. I don't know. Reactor packs a punch. I think we've seen that. And just can TKV take a punch from him? TKV has been stopped twice. I know it was controversial against Adelaide, but he has been stopped twice.
Yeah.
So maybe edge towards Reactor, but I don't know. I really
I think it could be similar to the David Adelaide fight because it is mad with Reactor. I mean, inactive, career. But active with Madonna, apparently, by all accounts. I don't know if you saw those pictures. He's a good-looking lad, isn't he? So he's doing well for himself outside of boxing.
The Midnight Brain.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
But he did look good last time out, didn't he, against Tommy Welsh? But, I mean, Tommy Welsh was, talk about a padded record.
Clever matchmaking. And we know this, don't we, as hardcore boxing fans. We know how the kind of game works sometimes. But how the hell, I want to make a point as well, how the hell were Lawrence Okoli and Reactor making cruiserweight? I mean, Jesus Christ.
Huge.
I mean, I'll be lucky if I could shed about 10 pounds. I don't know how. I mean, I remember when we spoke to Lawrence Okoli at, I think it was the first Magnificent 7 heavyweight card, Frank Warren's Queensbury card. And he said he was eating 1 meal a day to make cruiserweight. Like, what is that about? That's mad. He must have been getting in the ring just like, on the shakes. But I don't know how at 6'5" and a very muscular Reactor, I don't know how he was making that cruiserweight limit, to be honest. I mean, he does look a big natural heavyweight, but at 36 now, not been terribly active. I think if he gets through TKV, you kind of look across the heavyweight division. Who really do you fancy him against at European world level? I've got to be honest. I'm not sure.
Yeah, the jury's out. I mean, I think he's sort of a Lawrence Okoli, Tony Yoka level, which is actually a really good fight that's been made in Paris. I don't know what you think of that, Eliot. That's another 50-50 for me. Tony Yoka.
We've Don Charles now, isn't he, Tony Yoka?
Is that a good fight? I don't know. It's a struggle with Okoli. I'm not one of these people that kind of hates Okoli, but that fight he had against Kevin Lorena was a tough watch, and
that was, to be fair. Yeah.
I can't. It's hard to defend him, to be honest.
Awful fight that was, wasn't it?
Yeah. I think.
Match.
Yeah. With Yoka, I don't know. Tony, it's an interesting fight, but I feel like Tony Yoka, it's kind of last chance saloon because we've seen who he's lost to. He's kind of not been up against much since in the last couple of years, so I can't see him beating Lawrence Okoli personally. I think Okoli could win that fairly comfortably, personally.
The only chance I give Yoka, if I'm to try and play devil's advocate, that's an interesting one you brought up there, Max, is that when I spoke to John Charles at the Wardley Parker fight, at the presser there, he gave a very interesting interview, and we spoke a bit about Tony Yoka. And Don Charles is one of those trainers. He's great at rejuvenating careers. That's obviously why Dubois gone back there. I think he's great with that type of character that's a little bit crestfallen, a little bit kind of needs a father figure, an arm around the shoulder. Obviously, he's a good coach as well. And he was saying that he's tried to get into his head about, do you want to go down as one of the great Olympians to have had a very underwhelming professional career? And I think going in with that, if that can spark something in Tony Yoka, maybe better. What is he, 34? He's not getting any younger. I struggle to sort of see it, but I think, Don Charles was talking a good game to me, but he's going to big up his fighter, obviously, and maybe he sees something there. But we do see this, though, boys, don't we, where if Okoli does kind of hurt him early, is Yoka going to revert back to type? That's the problem we've got.
I mean, also with Tony Yoka, when you look at his amateur career, I'm not being funny. I mean, everyone goes on about the Joe Joyce, robbery, but most people thought Hrgovic beat him in the semi-final of that Olympics as well. So there's also that. But it does excite me that Don Charles is with him. I think if anybody can get anything out of him, it's him. But he is going to have to show us something that we've not seen before. But, he's obviously got technical ability there, hasn't he? But I do agree that Lawrence Okoli has always been a hard watch. You remember the fight he had with Isaac Chamberlain at the O2? I hope you
thanks for reminding us, Max.
Horrendous.
God.
That was diabolical. And it was an amazing build-up. There was so much hype, wasn't there? It was a really good, back and forth between them. But the fight was diabolical.
Do you think the affectionate term that goes around in media with Lawrence Okoli, Lawrence Hugoli, is fair? It's probably fair, isn't it? It's probably fair.
So.
Yeah. It's a strange one with Okoli, because is he entertaining? No. Is he good to watch? No. But I just think you can't deny what he's done. You know what I mean? He became world champion very quickly. He's lost one fight, which was against Crispin Smith in Bournemouth. But it's just a strange one, because I just don't think, I'm not convinced he's ever really been in. The only entertaining fight he's been in is the one he lost. But don't know, man. It's just he's effective at what he does. He wins fights. But I think possibly the problem with Okoli is, because I feel like in recent years he's been fighting abroad as much as he's been fighting in the UK. He had that fight in Poland at Bridgerweight, fought in Nigeria in his last fight. Now he's fighting in France. He's either been that or he's been on undercards in recent years. And I think he's not, because he's not a main event fighter. Despite being a 2-weight world champion, will we see Okoli in the main event in this country again?
No, your call, maybe.
Yeah.
Definitely
not the O2 again.
No.
I think you used the word there, underwhelming but effective. He's a bit like Tony Pulis's Stoke back in the day. Maybe I'll probably be a bit unfair with that football analogy. But they give everyone a game. Mid-table. Really, really hard to fight, difficult, would kind of get results, but horrible to watch.
Long throw, Rory Delap's
Long, Rory Delap, from the halfway line,
Yeah.
on Ricardo Fuller's head. But yeah,
Yeah.
horrendous. But yeah, it's a funny old time for the heavyweight division because I mean, this Usyk Rico Verhoeven, I'm sorry, but I mean, amazing poster. I love the idea of a fight in the pyramids, but not someone in their second ever professional fight against the pound for pound #1. I don't doubt Rico is an amazing kickboxer. Seems a lovely fella, but that's a joke fight, surely. He's got absolutely no chance.
Go on, Eliot. Kick it off for us.
Go on, Eliot. The fight.
Okay, so I think my issue is that the problem. One part of my problem is that it feels like those who are promoting this think that if you can put a fight in an amazing location, that makes it a good fight, and it doesn't. Do you remember last year when there was that card in Times Square in New York? It was crap. It wasn't a good event. It was like it didn't make it a good event because it was in that location. So that's kind of the first issue I've got with it. One thing I would say is I don't think Usyk has said to his team, I want to fight this guy or I want an easy fight. I think fights at that level have managers, advisors, and this fight has been chosen for him, in my opinion. So yeah, look, it's crap. I hope Usyk gets stripped of the belts because one thing about Usyk is he's not been that active. Last year he had one fight. This year is he going to have more than one fight? Yeah, it's the WBO that he's had to let go of. And look, Usyk's fantastic. He's amazing, and I'm happy for him to do this fight. That's what he wants to do it and have an easy payday. I'm okay with that as long as it's not for a world title. But it's just weird. It's just weird. I don't want to kind of go off on one for 10 minutes, but it's just I don't get it. I don't get who's.
You go off on one. You want to go off on one. This is what our Spotify listeners will love it, mate. You go for it.
Because it's one of those as well. Like this isn't the first sort of fight like this we've seen. We've seen Tyson Fury versus Francis Ngannou, Joshua versus Ngannou, Mayweather versus McGregor a long time ago. Jake Paul, yeah, exactly, exactly. And it's you worry where boxing's going, but at the same time, I don't understand whether you're a boxing fan or not. Even if you're a casual fan, you should know that this is not going to be entertaining. And I think one of the biggest problems is that Francis Ngannou nearly beat Tyson Fury, and a lot of people think he did, and he dropped him.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of the problem here. So that's happened, and it's made people believe you can get an upset in these mixed sports, whatever you want to call it, and that's fair enough. I can't really agree with that. I can't really disagree with that because it's facts. But this, I don't know. There's something about Usyk being the unified heavyweight champion of the world, who still looks at the peak of his powers, in my opinion, still looks very impressive. And you've got someone like a Caballel or a Wardley. Those would both be good fights. And that's the other annoying thing. Because I've had disagreements with people. Some people I feel like have said, the problem is there's no fights out there for Usyk. And that's not true, because I've named 2 good fights against 2 undefeated fighters that I would love to see. I'm not saying they beat Usyk, but I'd love to see those fights. So, yeah, it's not great, is it?
That's horrendous, mate. And this Rico, he's had one pro fight in 2014 on some small hall show in Germany, and his opponent was 0-5 with 5 losses via knockout, and then he retired 0-6 with 6 losses via knockout. And again, you get all the kickboxing fans say, "Oh, but no, Rico's amazing with his hands," but I'm sure most of his knockouts probably come with his feet, and he can't use his feet. It's just beyond pointless. But like you say, Eliot, unfortunately now, Tyson Fury has forever gave these fights credibility. When Usyk's not Tyson Fury, and Ngannou's probably better with his hands than Rico, because he was a striker in MMA. But again, Francis Ngannou, when he was taken seriously, got put to sleep in 2 rounds. And I think Usyk will probably put on a show, won't he? He'll probably carry Rico for a few rounds, a bit like Mayweather, McGregor, and then he'll stop him whenever he wants. But yeah, it's not inspiring. But like you say, the annoying thing is there's so many good fighters. Wardley, Caballel, so many options.
I think another thing as well is things about other fights that we mentioned is Conor McGregor, massive worldwide sports star at the time. Ngannou, quite well known, and just Ngannou's one of these people, he kind of sticks out because of the way he looks. He's so big, he's recognisable to anybody on the street. I could be wrong here, but is this guy on the same level as those guys? Is he near to that level? Because I'd heard his name, but I didn't even know what he looked like until the fight got announced.
Yeah, in the kickboxing circles, he's massive, but in terms of a wider appeal, that's why it's got really strange on the optics. This one, and look, I come from the place. Look, Usyk's the best of our generation by far. If he wants to continue, and that's the route he wants to go down until he retires, fair play. But I do think it puts a little bit of a kind of I don't know. It's just it's a bit of a strange one for me. Like, I mean, is he going to fight this guy Verhoeven and then retire? Is he what motivation, ambition is there still? And maybe I don't know. Is he sort of saying to himself, "Look, I've beat Dubois twice, I've beat Fury twice, I've beat AJ twice. Do I want to kind of wait to give Moses an opportunity or a Cabiel? Does he need to do it? Probably not. Like you said, Eliot, those are the fights that you'd want to see him in if he's going to continue. But this just kind of reeks of a little bit of a money grab, and I think it's because I just didn't think Usyk would do that. It did disappoint me a little bit because I'm a bit of a fanboy of Usyk. So anyone who knows that I'm a massive fan, but this is a bit icky for me.
Yeah, it's not great. It really isn't. And I'm the same as you. I never thought he'd do it. But I mean, if everyone's going to grieve Tyson Fury for doing it, I don't think anybody could begrudge AJ because of what Ngannou done to Fury. But we've seen it a million times now, and it is just frustrating. But I mean, one, great cruiserweight that can't get a fight is fighting this weekend, Jai Opetaia against Brandon Glanton. Is that the best Zuffa boxing fight so far? I mean, low bar at the minute, I know, but I think it's all right. I mean, Brandon Glanton's not the best, is he? But he's tough. He'll have a go. I think he stopped Marcus Brown, was it last time out?
Yeah, did he fought CBS as well fairly last year, did he?
Yeah, on the undercard of Eubank Ben 1, I believe. And it was a decent fight, but it was a grueling fight. But CBS boxed well. So, I mean, he's limited, Glanton, isn't he? But he does have a good chin, which you need against.
Big and strong, this is the problem, isn't it? I think Eliot's just refreshing.
Yeah.
Because we might. I think it's a real difficult one with Jai Opetaia because I've been saying this for like a little while. Like the cruiserweight division there's just not really anything there. I mean, the only fight really there that salivates you as fans is the Ramirez unification, really, isn't there? It's one of those that unless he moves up to heavyweight, and that's probably a different conversation in itself. He's more than capable to move up to heavyweight, but I think the longer he stays in the cruiserweight division, I think it could end up hurting his career a little bit because I mean, he's now at a point. Been a world champion. He's the best cruiserweight currently, and he's fighting Brandon Glanton now, and it's a bit underwhelming, a little bit underwhelming.
At the Apex as well. I mean, I think that venue holds about 500 people or something stupid, and it's like even that. Like it's just like a COVID venue, isn't it? Really, there's going to be no atmosphere there, and I think that feeds off on the fighters. Like we all saw those fights during COVID, and there were some good ones to be fair, weren't there? But at the same time, it's like, are you really going to be able to build them in America? But Dana White knows what he's doing. I believe. I know a lot of people don't like him in boxing, but I mean, I think what we've seen so far with signing Conor Benn, they're not there to piss around, and I'm sure they will get opportunities. But apparently, the IBF belt's not on the line. I believe. I don't know if you've heard anything new or anything, but yeah, I think it's just the Zuffa belt as far as I know. But I don't know what you feel, Eliot, but Opetaia strikes me as the kind of guy with the right opponent. I think he could be quite nasty in the build-up. If it was like Opetaia against a younger Derek Chisora, could you imagine the build-up between those two big egos, big personalities? And I think he needs that as well. When you fight, I mean, Brandon Glanton's a bit of a gobshite, I think, by all accounts, isn't he? But he certainly was with CBS. But
yeah,
that's all been quiet. But that's probably Zuffa boxing, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm just dying to see Jai Opetaia in a big fight. He's been active. There's one thing you have to say about him. He's been active. He was at 4 fights last year. But it's a shame. And I think one thing I will say, I will make a prediction here. If this continues, I can see Opetaia losing, because I think eventually he could take his eye off the ball. I mean, he got rocked in his last fight against Sin Cara, who's a big puncher as well.
Oh,
But
I remember
can
that.
see that
Yeah,
happening. I could
I
just
remember that.
you I just think if you keep on taking these fights against guys who are levels below you, eventually it's human nature to lose a bit of motivation, a bit of focus. And at
Hunger.
cruiserweight, it's the weight below heavyweight, isn't it? So these guys are big guys who can punch very hard as well. So I think if this could continue, we could end up seeing a massive shock for Opetaia, because he will be eventually. It's natural for him to take his eye off the ball, but we'll see.
Definitely. But no, it should be a good weekend of boxing. Well, I think for Zuffa boxing anyway, it's not the most inspiring, is it? But the problem is with the undercard, I don't know about you, but you look on BoxRec and there's a load of fights there, and I've not heard of any of them. So they've obviously been busy, but a lot of their signings are so obscure. But it's probably good for them because they'll be earning more money than what they would have been, making a couple $1,000s. If they're all on 10 grand a fight, they get a free tracksuit, as Eddie Hearn takes the piss out of. But if you're at a certain level, I think that's good, I think the problem is with boxing, you always think of Ryan Garcia earns 30 million a fight, but at the lowest level, they don't. You know what I mean? And I think Zuffa boxing is probably good for fighters like that, but time will tell as always. But no, cheers for tonight. Anyway, boys, really enjoyed it. So where can everybody find you, Eliot? You're obviously on YouTube. You've got a brilliant channel there, and you're on Instagram as well?
Yeah, that's correct. ESBR boxing, ESBR_boxing. Sorry, so please do give us a follow, check us out. But yeah, no, as I said at the start, I really enjoyed this chat. So thank you very much for having me on. It's been a lot of fun.
Yep, loved it, Eliot. Thank you so much, and be sure to check out.
Been a pleasure, Eliot. Good to see you again.
Cheers, chaps. Thank you.
Cheers, boys. Thank you, Andrew, as always, and thank you for watching and listening, everyone. And we will see you all next week.